The envelope looked innocent enough, cream-colored, with fancy cursive lettering. 40th High School Reunion, it announced in gold foil. Linda held it in her hands a little too long, her thumb brushing over the return address like she was touching an old scar. I didn't think much of it at first. Linda had kept in touch with a few of her girlfriends from back then, and reunions were just another excuse for them to drink wine and laugh too loud. "You should go," I told her, flipping through the newspaper. "Might be fun." She nodded, but her eyes had that far-off look, the one she gets when she's remembering something I wasn't part of. That night, I found her at the kitchen table, flipping through her high school yearbook. The spine cracked like it hadn't been open in years. "Looking for someone?" I joked. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just reminiscing." I should have known then, but I didn't. The next week she bought a new dress, dark blue, sleeveless, the kind that hugged her waist just right. "For the reunion," she said when I raised an eyebrow. "You're really going all out." She shrugged. "Might as well look nice." The night of the reunion, she took longer than usual getting ready, curled her hair, put on perfume I hadn't smelled in years. When she kissed me goodbye, her lips were warm, but her mind was already somewhere else. I sat in my recliner, the TV murmuring some old western. The house felt too quiet. I thought about calling her just to check in, but I didn't. Big mistake. Because when she came home, her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright. Not from wine, from something else. And when she thought I wasn't looking, she tucked a business card into her jewelry box. Michael Carter, attorney at law, like it was a secret she couldn't wait to keep. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a reunion. It was the beginning of the end. I found it 3 days later. Linda had asked me to grab her earrings from the jewelry box, the simple pearls I'd given her on our 10th anniversary. My fingers brushed against something stiff, tucked beneath the velvet lining. A business card, crisp and white, with embossed black lettering, Michael Carter, Law Offices of Carter and Briggs. And below, in handwriting I knew wasn't Linda's, a phone number and the words, "Call me, anytime." My stomach dropped. I turned the card over, half expecting some cheesy love note, but it was blank. That almost made it worse. This wasn't some impulsive scribble. It was deliberate, professional. A man confident enough to think she'd keep it. I slid it back exactly where I'd found it. That night, I watched Linda move around the kitchen, humming while she stirred a pot of spaghetti. Same old Linda, apron tied around her waist, hair piled in a messy bun. But now I couldn't unsee the little things. The way she checked her phone screen face down, the extra seconds she took before answering when I asked how her day was. I wanted to shake her. "Who is he?" But the words stuck in my throat. Maybe because part of me already knew. The yearbook still sat on the coffee table where she'd left it. I flipped it open to the senior photos. There he was, Michael Carter, varsity jacket, cocky grin. Football team, debate club. The kind of guy who'd gotten life handed to him on a silver platter. And right beside his photo in the margin, a faded LC plus MC inside a heart. Linda's handwriting. I closed the book too hard. Upstairs, Linda's phone buzzed on the nightstand. I told myself not to look, but then I did. One new message. Still thinking about that dance. No name saved, just a 312 area code. I put the phone down, my hand steady in a way that surprised me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't anger. It was worse. It was the quiet before the storm, the moment when you realize the life you've built could crumble over something as stupid as a high school reunion. Downstairs, Linda called up to me. "Dinner's ready." Her voice sounded the same as it had for 30 years. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. She started wearing perfume to bed. That's what tipped me off the second time. Linda had never been one for fancy nighttime routines, just moisturizer and the same lavender-scented spray she'd used since the kids were in diapers. But now I'd catch whiffs of something muskier, more expensive, when she leaned over to turn off her lamp. I checked the dresser while she was in the shower. The bottle was tucked behind her tampons, Noir, the label read. Not her usual drugstore brand. A gift, then. My hands shook as I unscrewed the cap, one spritz on my wrist, and I knew. This was a man's choice, something he'd picked for her in some department store, watching her pulse jump as he tested it on her skin. I put it back exactly as I'd found it. The GPS history on her phone confirmed it. Last Thursday, when she'd claimed to be at book club, she'd driven to the Hyatt on Wabash. 43 minutes there, 2 hours and 18 minutes parked, 41 minutes back. I did the math in my head. Plenty of time for a drink. For more. That night, I grilled steaks like nothing was wrong. The flames licked the meat as I watched her through the kitchen window. She was texting, that small smile playing on her lips, the one I used to think was meant for me. I plated her food extra careful, the way she liked it. Medium rare, no pink in the center. "You okay?" she asked when I set it down. "You're quiet." "Just tired," I said. The truth sat between us like a third person at the table. Later, I pretended to sleep as she typed on her phone, the glow lighting up her face in the dark. At 2:17 a.m., she slid out of bed and padded to the bathroom. I heard the faucet run, the whisper of her robe tying shut. When she came back, she smelled like toothpaste and someone else's cologne. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise. Somewhere around 5, it occurred to me, I could confront her. I could scream, throw things, demand answers. But what good would it do? Either she'd lie, and I'd hate her for it, or she'd tell the truth, and I'd hate myself for staying. So I did nothing, and that's when I knew I was already losing her. The dry cleaning receipt fluttered from her coat pocket like a guilty confession when I hung it up last Tuesday. Thursday, 11:37 a.m., one navy blue dress, red wine stain removal. I stood there holding that thin slip of paper, remembering how Linda had come home that afternoon with grocery bags and a story about running into Carol from Bridge Club, how they'd supposedly had lunch at the diner, how Carol had knocked over her glass. But Carol had been in Florida visiting her grandkids all month. I knew because she'd sent us a postcard. The dress hung in her closet now, clean and silent. I pressed the fabric to my face, searching for traces of him, cigar smoke, whiskey, the expensive aftershave I'd smelled on her pillow. But all I got was the chemical tang of cleaning solvents. That afternoon, I drove to the Hyatt. The valet gave me a look when I pulled up in my 10-year-old Buick. I ordered a bourbon at the bar just to have something to hold on to. The bartender slid it across the polished mahogany. "Slow afternoon," I said, nodding at the empty seats. "Thursday lunch crowd's different." He wiped a glass. "Mostly business types, couples looking for privacy." He smirked. I left my drink untouched. The walk to the elevators felt like wading through wet cement. I pressed the button for the 12th floor for no reason other than it was the highest number. When the doors opened, I just stood there staring at the empty hallway, plush carpet stretching toward rooms where people did things they'd lie about later. Back home, Linda was making meatloaf. The kitchen smelled like onions and nostalgia. She smiled over her shoulder, a strand of hair falling across her face like it had when we were newlyweds. "Hungry?" she asked. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. That night I dreamed of sinking ships. Linda stood on the deck, waving, growing smaller and smaller as the water swallowed me whole. I woke gasping at 3 a.m. Her side of the bed was cold. Downstairs, the light was on in the den. Through the crack in the door, I saw her curled on the couch, phone glowing in her hands. The soft tap of her laughter floated up to me like debris from a wreck. I turned and climbed the stairs alone. The bottle of bourbon in my desk drawer had gathered dust since my retirement party. Tonight, I wiped it clean with my sleeve. The amber liquid burned going down, but not enough to erase the image burned into my brain. Linda's text glowing on her phone screen when I brought her coffee this morning. "Can't wait for Thursday, 12th floor again." I drank until the numbers on my digital clock blurred. At some point, I must have dozed off. I woke to Linda shaking my shoulder, her face swimming into focus under the harsh kitchen light. Her lips moved, but all I heard was static until I found the receipt. From the hotel. The words sliced through the alcohol fog. She knew I knew. Her hands fluttered like wounded birds as she spoke. Explanations poured out. How it just happened, how she never meant to hurt me, how Michael had always been the one that got away. Her voice cracked on that last part. I studied the woman I'd shared a bed with for 32 years, the tiny scar above her eyebrow from when she fell ice skating in '89, the way her left eye watered when she was upset. All these years I'd thought I knew every inch of her. The grandfather clock in the hall ticked loudly in the silence. Linda reached for my hand. I let her take it, marveling at how familiar her fingers felt laced through mine. How many times had these hands comforted me, cooked my meals, held our children? Now they'd touched him too. I pulled away first. Upstairs, I packed a single suitcase with more care than the task required. Folded shirts, polished shoes. The mundane ritual kept me from screaming. When I turned around, Linda stood in the doorway, her silhouette backlit by the hall light. She looked small suddenly, like the girl I'd met at that company picnic in '83. "Where will you go?" she whispered. I zipped the bag shut. The sound was final. "Does it matter?" Downstairs, I paused at the front door. Our wedding photo hung crooked on the wall. I left it that way. The night air smelled like rain. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Normal sounds for a world that had stopped making sense. I got in the car and drove without looking back. The motel bed springs groaned under my weight. Through the thin walls, I heard a couple arguing about money, a TV playing late-night infomercials. The air smelled of bleach and stale cigarettes. I stared at the water stain on the ceiling, shaped like Florida. At dawn, I drove past our house. Linda's car was gone. The morning paper lay untouched on the porch. I let myself in with the key I wasn't supposed to have kept. The silence hit me first. No coffee percolating, no radio humming soft jazz. Just the refrigerator's steady buzz and the grandfather clock's relentless ticking. Her perfume still lingered in the bedroom. I opened her closet, half empty now. She'd taken the blue dress. The jewelry box sat open, her wedding ring gleaming among costume pieces. The kitchen calendar still showed last month. Our anniversary date circled in red. Below it, in Linda's neat handwriting, dinner at Luigi's, 7 p.m. I tore off the page, crumpled it, then smoothed it out again. In the den, I found the yearbook open on her desk. Michael's photo grinned up at me. Someone had traced the LC plus MC heart with fresh ink. A post-it note stuck to the page. "Call me when you're ready." I took the bourbon from my desk drawer. One glass, then another. The alcohol burned, but not enough. At noon, the doorbell rang. I watched through the peephole as the florist van drove away, leaving a bouquet of yellow roses on the porch. The card read, "For my Linda, always yours, M." I placed them in the kitchen trash, stems first. That evening, I sat on the back porch, watching fireflies dance over the lawn we'd planted together. The neighbors' sprinklers came on at exactly 6:30, like they had every summer for 20 years. Normal life continuing. Inside, the phone rang 17 times before falling silent. I stayed until dark, until the mosquitoes drove me in. The house echoed with every step. In the bedroom, I lay on my side of the bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere across town, Linda was starting over. And here I was, surrounded by 32 years of memories, learning how to sleep alone.